You know one good sign of prophecy is folk don't like you. You know a good sign of real, because real prophets in the Bible were not liked. The Bible said, be weary when all men speak well of you. You lying somewhere. Somewhere you ain't telling the truth. Somewhere you wearing two faces under one hat. Jeremiah said, why did you give me this ministry? And he sat down and said, I ain't going to say another word. I'm through. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm quit preaching. I can't do this. It's too much. It's too tiresome. He was complaining, and then all of a sudden, Jeremiah said, my God, it's like fire shut up in my bones. I want to quit doing it, but I can't quit doing it. I want to stop, but I can't stop. I want to throw in the towel, but I can't throw in the towel. It's like fire shut up in my bones. I can't help it. When you know you've been called, you can't help it. You're not out to win the favoritism of people. You're out to be the voice of God. Jeremiah had a resolve in his heart that he did not get caught up in the slipperiness of his community. Now, let me sum this up. We're getting ready to go to the polls and vote. And I do encourage everyone in here to vote, because people died that you might have that right. You need to exercise your right to vote. So don't pass that opportunity up. Go and vote. Do everything you can get to those polls. This is a critical election, and we need for you to vote. But what I want to tell you is, do not put all your trust in no politician, in no government. Somebody told me the other day, you ought to preach a sermon pimping my praise. You know what pimping my praise is? Is using the trust and the confidence of the people only to manipulate them for your personal gain. And a whole lot of people, you know, a politician will come in, most of them look at us as votes. We're votes. And there are some pulpits that look at you as money. They don't want nothing from you but your money in order to encourage their lifestyles. And may I say this, and a young man, I know he's here today, he told me, he said, Pastor, you ought to preach about prosperity. And I had to tell him the truth. I said, I struggle with that preaching. And I know it's been a part of our society for years, this prosperity gospel. And I've looked at prosperity gospel. I've even tried to do some prosperity preaching. But I can't do it. I have not been able to find contentment and resolve in because I wore the gator shoes. And I wore tailor-made. You couldn't get me to wear a suit off the rack. Every suit I wore was tailor-made. I had tailors from California to Georgia. And when I went in Bright Creation, I went to the shoe rack where the shoes started at $500 and $600 a pair. Because that's what I thought. Because I had slipped into a community of pastors and preachers who had that lifestyle. And all we talked about was how much money we made. I'm telling you the truth about me now. All we talked about was how much money we made and what kind of cars we drove. Because that was the community. But when I got sick, and when I thought I was going to die, when I got cancer, and I thought the Lord was going to take me up out of here, my whole perspective about life, ministry, and preaching changed. Because when I first started preaching, I told the Lord, whatever you want me to do. I was integritous. I thought I was going to save the world. Matter of fact, the Southern Baptist Church was grooming me to be a foreign missionary. And you don't make no money in foreign mission. It ain't about money, it's about missions. They were grooming me to send me to Africa. But I ended up pastoring a church in California and got caught up with a bunch of Negro preachers with a lifestyle that diverted me from the real purpose and focus of being a pastor. Every year I had to have a new car. Every year I had to have me a new car. And my wife didn't care nothing about no car, but she let me be foolish. She tried to tell me, what is wrong with you? Well, I like cars. And I can buy what I want to buy. She was codependent. I remember one time I went out and bought a motorcycle. Didn't even tell her, just went out and bought it. Came home with it. She didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. I said, that's all right. You ain't got to talk to me. I got my bike. You ain't got to say nothing to me. And I fixed her. I put on the back of it. I said, come on. Come on, just get on the back here and take a ride with me. I ain't riding that bike. That's evil. You done spent our money for our children on that motorcycle. I ain't riding. Come on, get on the back. Just ride with me. She got on the back. Said, put your arms around me. We got to ride, and I took her up in the mountains of California. You know, you got to lean, you know. And she leaning and hugging and riding. I stopped, pull on the side of the road, held her hand, talked sweet nothing to her. We got back on the motorcycle, rode some more. She just holding on. I said, I'm getting you now. The more we rode, the tighter it got. By the time we got back home, she said, ooh, I like that bike. That bike sure is fun. Now, let me tell you why I said that. It's because when you're slipping down and caught up, you can drag other folk with you. Because you think you're right in what you're doing, because you think God is all a part of blessing you. You think God is all in that blessing because it's prosperity. But in the end, my brothers and sisters, where has that teaching brought the black community? We got credit cards, debt. That's up the yang. We can't pay our credit card debt. We bought stuff we couldn't afford. And it put us in a slavery position. Because the Bible says when you're in debt, you are a slave to the lender. And our slavery position has shifted. We're not the kind of slaves where we're slaves because we're working in white folks' houses and doing domestic work, but we're slaves to our finances because we believed in a lie about what we thought the gospel was saying when it really wasn't teaching that, because the Bible says we ought to live in moderacy. Why are we losing our houses? Why are the jobs not in our communities? It's because we built churches and buildings. Instead of building lives and communities, we built buildings with bricks and mortar. We built family life centers. We built gyms and all of that kind of stuff. Instead of building a car department, instead of building something so somebody could have had a job to feed their family, we rob people from their money in order to build monuments to ourselves. And in our communities, we got monument churches. Monuments built to the pastors and the preachers, and the folk can't even get a job. We could have took $30 million and built a community, buy you a car industry and build some cars so people can have a job. We slipped. We slipped down. And there are some of those out there who are still holding on to the foolishness of the prosperity preaching, and people are losing their homes. And we have no jobs and no income. That's why I struggle with prosperity teaching, because if we had taught people to live within your means, and if you can't afford stuff, don't buy it. Don't buy what you got to charge. We would have been a whole lot better off. If your child could not afford to wear Jordans, take them to Walmart. Buy them a pair of $9.99 tennis shoes and call it a day. I did not grow up where I had the option to tell my mama what she had to buy for me to wear. Whatever she bought, you better wear it, and you better not say nothing or you'll go barefoot. O.C. Meredith didn't play that. We didn't have an option of what we eat. Wasn't no going out to no restaurant. Whatever mama cooked, you ate it. If it wasn't on the stove, you go hungry and take your sorry butt to bed. All because we think God is wrapped up in material things, and we think that we are showing a sign of God's blessings when we got material stuff. That's a lie. You ought to feel good about yourself, not because you got on a name brand piece of clothes. You ought to feel good about yourself because you got clothes on your back and a roof over your head and shoes on your feet and food on your table. Feel good enough about you that's wearing somebody else's name does not make you who you are. Put your own name on your shirt and walk around with your name on it.